Okay, now coming to the function of cerebellum, right. So, what are the functions? So, by now we have learned what all the function of the cerebellum. The first and foremost is comparator function. Comparator function. What does it mean? It means it compares, that we have covered throughout the lectures. Like I have been telling you, I have told you umpteen times, like whatever kind of the movement is being performed, one copy is sent to the spinal cord and one copy is sent to the cerebellum, and it compares these. Okay, cerebellum compares these copies. So, secondly is damping, like dampening of movement, damping action. Okay. So, this damping action is, what does it mean? This one also we have covered in the previous video. Like say, if I am about to pick this pen, almost all of the motor activities, they are kind of a pendulum. Like say, if this is the pendulum, we just force it this direction, in this direction, it will keep on rotating, right? Pendulum movement. With the momentum, it gains the momentum. So, similarly, when I am supposed to pick this pen up, my movement of entire this right arm, it will go and it is supposed to past point this particular object. It won't stop over here, it will go over there. So, there is connection within the cerebellum which inhibits, like say, if I have to write any word or if I have to perform any kind of the movement, there suppose there is flexion of the fingers. Okay. So, the flexion of the fingers, it is not like it will just stop over there, it is kind of, it will go with the flow. So, it has to be stopped. For this flexion of the finger has to be stopped, there should be contraction of antagonist muscles at the end of the movement. Like say, I have to flex these fingers up to this much only, then cerebellum helps in planning. Like as soon as this flexion of the movement reaches up over here, these extensor muscle of these fingers will start their action. So, because of the contraction of the extension, it will stop and then it will not past point the particular point. Like I have to pick this thing, this contraction, it will not go like this way, it will stop over there. So, damping by comparator function, it helps in dampening a particular movement. Now, the third one is mainly these comparator or damping action. Then there is the mainly the cerebrocerebellum. We said the cerebrocerebellum. What is the cerebrocerebellum? Cerebrocerebellum is lateral part of the cerebellar hemisphere, right? Lateral part of cerebellar hemisphere, this much part. Okay, this much part. So, it not only helps in all these things, it helps in three more things. One is planning. We keep on saying the planning. So, what does planning mean? Planning means planning of the sequential movement. Sequential movement. Like I have to pick this pen up, then it is not like I have to just move my arm to reach over there. It will go over there, flex the fingers, pick it up, then bring it close to my body, right. So, all these there should be the sequence. First it should reach over there, then it will pick the thing, then it will lift it up, then it will bring closer to the body. It is not like first the part happens like the bringing closer and then flexion, then so that sequence will be disrupted. So, this sequence, planning of the sequence movement, which should occur at the first, then second, then third, that planning of the sequence of the movement, that happens with the help of this cerebellum, and it cerebrocerebellum helps in planning the movement by these premotor cortex, by integrating with the premotor cortex and the somatosensory area, the somatosensory cortex, right. That is why I said in the previous video, like the cerebropontocerebellar tracts, not only from the motor cortex, premotor cortex, as well as few of the somatosensory cortex. So, along with all these things, like any plan, it begins within the motor cortex, and then with the help of the basal ganglia and the cerebellum, that planning happens. So, the major function of the cerebellum is planning of the sequential movement, like it plans actually which it's kind of a two-way communication with the premotor cortex and the somatosensory cortex, and between the cerebrocerebellum, like this way the information keep on coming and going back. It's kind of a two-way information, okay, two-way information. So, we can say the lateral cerebellar hemisphere, it not only involved in what movement is happening at a particular given moment, but it also like sequential movement, like say we start the movement at the, this is the first part of the three parts. We have divided the movement like picking up of the pen in three parts. One is going up to this reaching, like initial the comparator and damping is we have done, like it will reach up to this one, then it will dampen, like appropriate amount of the movement is happening. Now, the third one is planning of the sequential movement, sequential, the first sequence is going up to there, second is picking it up, that is the second, third is now bringing close to the body. So, when we start the first part, cerebellum helps in dampening the action, performing the optimum amount of the movement up to this one. So, not only this one, it also helps in like what is the second sequence. When the first sequence is happening, cerebellum knows, it has ordered body to what should be the second one, the next. So, that like say like I am doing this video editing, like I will add this one with the paper pen, and then I will combine with that PowerPoint presentation, okay, like in between I am combining those PowerPoint presentation part of the video. So, that joining part, it should be smooth, right? If it isn't smooth, then it will appear like very disturbance part in between. So, this first sequence and second sequence, the transformation from the first sequence to the second sequence, it should be smoothly, and it will happen smoothly only when we know what is about to happen. ये आपका सीक्वेंस हो रहा है, उसी टाइम सेरिबेलम ने डिसाइड कर लिया है कि सेकंड मूवमेंट, सेकंड सीक्वेंस क्या होना है, कितना होना है, कब स्टार्ट करना है, कब फिनिश करना है, एंड बाय द टाइम द सेकंड आल्सो इट हैज calculated and programmed the third sequence, right, the third sequence, consecutive sequence. So, planning of sequence of the movement. Now, the fourth one is not only the sequence of the movement, it also control the timing of the sequence, like when this second sequence and third sequence is supposed to happen. So, not only the planning of the sequence in what order 1 2 3, not 1 3 2 or not 3 2 1, right, 1 2 3 it should be, and for how much duration and when the second is about to start, that is the timing. The timing function is also necessary, right. So, the fifth one is all these things we have covered all these functions throughout the lecture of the cerebellum, that is the ballistic movement. What is this ballistic movement? Control of the ballistic movement. Ballistic movement is nothing but like continuously consecutive agonist and antagonist muscle, like the supination and pronation, that part we have discussed, right, that circuit, reverberating circuit. So, that is also the function of the cerebellum. So, 5 major functions we can say. One is comparator, second is damping, third is planning of the sequence, fourth is timing of those planned sequence, and fifth is ballistic, continuous, rapidly agonist and antagonist muscle. So, any rapid at rapid speed skilled movement happening. The perfect example is like say जब आप ड्राइविंग सीखते हो, when you learn driving, initially जब आप जाओगे ब्रेक लगाते हो तो आपको पता नहीं होता है कि कितना ब्रेक लगाना है, या तो आप लगाओगे नहीं या आप बहुत ज़्यादा ब्रेक लगा देते हो, राइट, बहुत ज़्यादा ब्रेक लगा देते हो, आपको सीक्वेंस नहीं आता है कि कब क्लच दबानी है, कब ब्रेक दबाना है, कब कितना रेस देना है, कब कौन सा गियर लगाना है, राइट. सो दैट्स द परफेक्ट एग्जांपल हाउ वी learn a particular skilled movement वंस वी हैव लर्न दैट स्किल्ड मूवमेंट, ड्राइविंग जब आपको एक बार आ गई है, उसके बाद आप सबकॉन्शियसली वो सारा ऑटोमेटिक करते रहोगे, राइट। ऑटोमेटिक आपको कब गियर लगाना है, कब कितना ब्रेक लगाना है, ऑल दीज फंक्शंस दे आर कवर्ड इन दैट ड्राइविंग आपने जो सीख ली है। और जो आपका कि कितना आपको करना है, क्या करना है, इट मीन्स इनिशियली द मेजर contribution was from the cerebral cortex. Cerebral was making this cerebellum to learn the thing. Cerebellum timed, dampened, planned the sequence, all these to and fro movement, and with the help of the cerebral cortex and the basal ganglia too, right. And ultimately once it is learned, then this part, just cerebral cortex will initiate that thing, and then it will do other functions, only the cerebellum will control, like in the pronation and supination reverberating circuit we have discussed. So that is the, like we can totally culminate the entire function of the cerebellum by giving an example of जब आपको ड्राइविंग नहीं आती है, ड्राइविंग सीखने जाते हो, सारी चीज़ें आपके कितना ब्रेक लगाना है, कब लगाना है, कौन से सीक्वेंस पे कौन सा गियर, कितनी रेस देनी है, जब आप सीख जाते हो, दैट इज दैट स्किल्ड मूवमेंट is happening with the help of the cerebellum. So that's regarding the function. So this is the PowerPoint presentation of connection and function of cerebellum. So connection, like based on these fastigious nucleus, globose, emboliform, that is the interpositus nucleus, and this one is dentate nucleus. So fastigia is concerned with the flocculonodular lobe as well as these vestibular nuclei, okay, the vestibular nuclei. Globose and emboliform from the paleo-cerebellum. It will go mainly to the red nucleus and reticular formation. And dentate nucleus, like the neocortex, area number 6, 4 and sensory area, it goes to red nucleus and then again back to the motor cortex, because this is held via the ventrolateral nucleus of the thalamus for planning and programming, okay. Now depending on, like they have been subdivided the functions of the vestibulocerebellum, paleo-cerebellum and spinocerebellum. So oldest part developmentally, it helps in maintaining the equilibrium, and selective ablation, if there is selective issue with this vestibulocerebellum lesion, it will, like say if a particular person is having excessive motion sickness, some people they are very hypersensitive to the motion sickness. So if they first they will be try to get treated by the medical treatment. If it is very resistance to the medical treatment, they used to do the selective ablation of the vestibulocerebellum to get rid of the motion sickness, right. And these are the connection, there is no need to row. So what are the function of vestibulocerebellum? Maintaining of posture and equilibrium. Second is elicit positional change of the eye and trunk in response to the movement of head, and the third is maintenance of the muscle tone, maintenance of the muscle tone. Now coming to the second part, that the spinocerebellum. Spinocerebellum, it receives proprioceptive impulse, we won't go into that part. It brings about the smoothness and coordination of the voluntary movement, smoothness and coordination, and it regulates the stretch reflex and maintains the muscle tone, okay, maintain the muscle tone. So what are the functions? It helps in error correction, adjusting the posture and effect movement, final effective movement bring about, and smoothens and coordinates the voluntary motor movement, okay. That's the function of spinocerebellum. Now the neocerebellum, it interacts with the motor cortex for planning, programming, coordinating complex movement by regulating the sequence, which sequence has to happen first, second and third, and timing of those sequence of the movement, right. So these are the functions of different part. So function of the neocerebellum is planning and programming of movement, coordinating the complex movement, sequencing and timing of the movement, as well as precision of the movement, sequence and precision of the movement, and timing of the movement. So we can collectively say function of the cerebellum based on vestibular, spino and neocerebellum. Maintenance of posture, equilibrium, muscle tone. So this is the entire function of the cerebellum, okay.